Wherefore, Series 2, Episode 44. Lockdown is tedious beyond all description. School is boring and feels pointless, and Sabrina cannot see much sense in anything she is doing. She hates being stuck at home. Her recent forays into wizardry make it easy to be out and about without her family noticing or anyone else taking issue. But with nowhere to go and no one to hang out with and nothing to do, there's not much to be gained. Even finding ways to send messages and questions to her mentor has lost its shine. He is fairly innovative about sending replies, but there are only so many ways to send and disguise communications, and both of them are running out of ideas. Sabrina is bored with herself, which is the worst bit. The early stages of the pandemic weren't too bad for her. Tim seemed exciting. Magic had also been exciting, and she'd felt powerful and significant when she started getting into it herself. No more. The winter has worn her down. She is tired and stuck. It is a common enough problem. There is a rising tide of gloomy exhaustion, and it drowns people on a daily basis. Their bodies keep going through the motions, though, while the light in their eyes dims. Whether there is a far side to all of this, where the drowned can be pulled from the apathy tide and brought back to life, remains to be seen. How many of us will be left who can act to rescue and resuscitate is also questionable. January is bitterly cold and unreasonable. The death toll is a daily horror that it is impossible to properly think about. It is strange, remembering how we panicked over a few hundred deaths back last spring. Now those deaths are normal, everyday occurrences, and the only way to stay sane is not to let it in, not to feel it. Sabrina used to be a happy-go-lucky creature. She didn't previously worry about much, treating life as something to be lived and enjoyed. This winter has aged her and turned her into someone who lies awake at night knowing she can't afford to care that so many people she has never met are dying, while feeling like she really should care, and mostly being numb. She hasn't seen some of her grandparents since Christmas 2019, and the other pair she hasn't seen since the summer. They've all been really careful. They should be safe. She misses them, but finds she can't handle phone calls or family Zoom sessions. Being lonely is awful, but somehow talking to people is actually worse. At the moment, Sabrina is lost somewhere in Tumblr reading a conversation about whether water is lava, and if so, does that mean that ice is a sort of rock? She fell into this by accident. What is a rock, really? Liquids are just the molten forms of solids, so water is just the molten form of ice. It's an odd thought. She's never considered it before, but if anyone had asked her, she would have said that water was the primary form and ice something it turns into when cold. But really, ice is the solid, and water is what happens when ice melts. Tim used to talk about the ice a lot. At the time it hadn't much interested her, but now it's frequently on her mind. The very cold weather has helped with that. The ice is present and compelling. It is hard to imagine the world will ever warm up again. The cold outside and the numbness inside her have combined to feel like an ice age. Sabrina does not know much about prehistory. She has seen illustrations of people dressed badly in animal skins and a few photos of cave art. There are some vague memories of arrowheads and stone tools seen in museums. None of it meant much to her. She pokes about with a search engine, thinking about ice, and wondering, and bored. As she is doing this, Sabrina accidentally asks a question that needs asking a good deal more often. She asks whether the distant past was really as primitive as she's been encouraged to believe. What kind of knowledge would you need to survive along the edges of the ice? She thinks of the skills required, the cooperation and communication, and wonders what more there must be that she can't even imagine. Her bedroom is full of objects mass-produced by her culture, and that looks like wealth, but what does she actually know? What can she do? The future seems light on possibilities, and she has a feeling that progress isn't all it's cracked up to be. Of course, she isn't the first young person to crave some wilder and more dangerous time with real scope to make a mark. Who knew that the high-drama, apocalypse-flavoured disaster of our times would call on us to stay home and binge-watch TV programmes? No one needs a sword for this. About the least heroic thing you can do is kill someone, because the odds are it would be your own granny. Despite expectation, Brexit is not going to deliver a full-blown Hunger Games scenario anytime soon. Heroically doing nothing doesn't really cut it, but what else is there? She's not a doctor or a nurse, too young to volunteer for much, too young to be on a frontline job. YA fiction hasn't really prepared her for being surplus to requirement during an actual crisis. Surely magic should be able to do something to help, but she can't think what. Sabrina is too depressed and self-involved to think creatively. It's the sort of thinking that would do most good right now. This is unfortunate, but she's hardly alone in it. What could magic do in such times as these if you don't know enough to use it to heal someone? Bodies are complicated, and effective magic has to be specific. Take a step back and ask what else magic is. It is in essence change, and enchantment, and hope. Magic is a sense of wonder at the world, an open, undaunted heart, and the means to find a way even when the world seems to insist that no way forward is possible. This winter hungers for magic. It will be found in the beauty of falling snow, in the sharp clarity of early mornings. Photographers turned magicians will capture a hint of it to share with others. Tiny droplets of magic sprinkled into the slow-motion tornado of everything that is going wrong. There will be sweetness and kindness. And there will be gardener magicians planting seeds of hope here and there, day by day, breath by breath. Life goes on. This is magic all by itself, so long as you aren't too defeated to see it that way. You undertake what small acts of magic you can. Perhaps you were tentative and new to all of this, but you are figuring out how to be a magician yourself. Or a wizard. Or maybe a weaver.